Five, four, three, two, one, and we're live. Brilliant. So, Amanda Etuk, thank you so much for being here and joining us on our Business Leaders webinar for the second time. I think you're the first person that we're having twice, which is amazing and just shows how unique your perspective is as a founder. So, thank you for being here. Um, yeah. Just a bit of introduction. My name is Thomas-Allinson. You already know who I am if you've been watching this channel or if you've been watching our lives. I'm the CEO and founder of Halisi Consults, we're a business consulting company. And Amanda here is our guest for today. She is a seasoned entrepreneur that has been tested and run through the fires of what we call the Nigerian business ecosystem. She's running one of the most interesting businesses ever, which is it's a logistics company, and they are B2B and B2C at the same time. She has extensive experience working in logistics, has a master's in supply chain as well. She's the co-founder of Messenger NG. Messenger NG is essentially a last mile fulfillment logistics company operating in Nigeria. They're in Abuja, mostly they're headquartered in Abuja, but I think they're expanding across other states in Nigeria. Amanda has been the co-founder of Messenger for about how many years now?
So Messenger started about 6 years ago. So yes, we're quite seasoned.
Amazing. Yes, Amanda has been on several accelerators, including Startup Bootcamp, and most recently Accelerate Africa. She was one of the first cohorts. She's also one of the recipients of Baobab's accelerator, I believe, and also was featured as one of the top 50 entrepreneurs in Africa by Jack Ma, CEO of Alibaba. And I know behind closed doors, and Messenger has raised VC and I believe has raised some debt financing as well, if I'm correct. So the conversation today is going to be about, the strategies that you, Amanda, have used to secure investors for your business as a business operator in Nigeria. What works, what doesn't work, what's the reality? Because what we're seeing out there is it's a funding winter, quote unquote, both on the equity side, that's the VC side, and both on the debt financing side. So we really want to dive into what is happening and how can we make it work in this climate. So yeah, Amanda, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Tolani and I go way back. I always say that every time. Just my bragging rights is that I've been friends with Tolani for a really long time. So yes, Messenger has been on for a couple of years. We recently did a pivot that was last year. So now we're focused on providing financial solutions to logistics operators, meaning that we give vehicle financing loans to operators, people who want to own their motorcycles, who want to own their tricycles, and then in future vans, trucks, basically delivery focused vehicles. So that's what we're doing now. So we've moved from being operators to now financing the operators in this sector. That's really what we do at Messenger. My name is Amanda Etuk. I am the CEO. I'm focused on growth and stakeholder management for Messenger. We have had quite a journey. So I'm really happy to be here. Tolani mentioned that we're in a fundraise winter, and I have to mention that we're very much still on our own journey. And because of the nature of our business, some strategies might not exactly be successful for Messenger because we're very, will I say, capital intensive and almost at some point we were quite asset heavy. So now we're focused on financing. So that's, you need a war chest to be able to do that. But in this journey, I've learned a couple of things. As Tolani mentioned, I have been on a number of accelerator programs. So one of the things that we've joked about is that this is equivalent to maybe a master's degree or a PhD. I have been I have been part of the Startup Bootcamp Accelerator, the Baobab Networks Accelerator, most recently Accelerate Africa. I've also been top 10 Standard Chartered Women in Tech Incubator. I was part of the FSDH program at some time. So there's a lot of learning that has come, that has brought us to where we are right now. Some of the things might not be applicable for our business, but definitely some things that would make your business more successful.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to dive in and just listen to insights from you because I know that you are battle tested, definitely. And despite it being your business isn't the sexiest, I would say. I think, when it comes to like sexy startups like fintech, it sounds so snazzy.
Yeah.
It's so easy for them to raise. But for your business, you've been able to do it and get on this several accelerators and use those accelerators as, would I say, fuel to essentially make your fundraising journey easier. That's really interesting. So I'm really excited to get into it. The first question I want to ask is about understanding investors' expectations. Now, what would investors typically be looking at in a company, in a startup or a normal business, before they decide to invest? What would they be looking at?
Okay, so first off is that by nature, VC investments are highly risky. So anyone who's going into venture capital is looking to find a rapidly scaling business, make big bets, and then win big at the end of the day. So I'll just say now that VC funds are not really interested in steady, low growth, stable sort of businesses. You would not be attractable for VC funds if you have that sort of business. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with your business. It doesn't mean that you are not a viable business. It's just not a right fit for people who are looking to scale rapidly. And one of the things with logistics is it's quite niche in the sense that you do need to make a lot of investments in terms of infrastructure, the vehicles, the people. So it's highly capital intensive. That's one. Even if you are on the software side of things, or you are like for us, which is the financing side of things. So it's still capital intensive. So it's how quickly can you scale. So a lot of investors want to know how quickly can you scale. So if you're speaking to traditional investors, it's very easy to say buy one, sell for two. Some people might be interested in that. But if it's a VC firm, it's more about scale. How rapidly can you scale? You hear some companies now who are doing great numbers and have only been with us for a few decades. Um, I think that there's some people now who are being born and are using Facebook, but I remember vividly when Facebook started. So, and you've
Mhm.
had like banks that have been here for hundreds of years. So just see that kind of growth and just imagine, can my business give that sort of scale and numbers? And you know that, okay, yes, you qualify for VC funds. But one of the things that I would say is VCs are not the only sort of investors that you can have. And I'm not sure if Tolani and I will delve into that later on. But talking about what makes your business attractive to investors, it's not just about VC funding. So there are different ways that you can raise funds that might not be just the VC route, and there are different things that appeal to those class of investors. So, for example, one thing that we noticed that we started to highlight with Messenger is that there's a social impact for what we do, and that sort of thing it's attractive to people who are interested in impact funding and giving out grants, for instance. So
Yeah.
being able to say, this is what my company does, this is the impact of what we're doing, these are impact numbers. So it shows that aside from showing your traction, how quickly you're able to scale, it might be also important to show the impact of what you built over a period of time. So
Yes.
that's one way to attract a certain kind of investor. There are lots of people who are very future focused, they want to leave a legacy, they want to do things like that. The number of foundations and funds that are very attractive right now in certain sectors, like education, where you could, really get funding for your impact. Another thing is just for traditional investor is, okay, I'm going to give you X amount. What are you going to give me back? So your business has to show how you make revenue and the margins that you're able to give back or return to your investors. So I think that traction is very important. But once you start to speak with other kinds of investors who may be more accessible than VC, it's more about how are your investors going to recoup on their investment. I think for whatever class, that's the most important thing. How would people investing make money from you? Yes, investors are not fairy godmothers. Like how do they, you know, benefit from this investment? How is the investment a success for them? I think for whatever kind of business, once you can answer that, you will be more attractive.
I completely agree. Fundraising is very interesting, and I like that you have different perspectives of different types of investors. VC is somewhat difficult to attain for most businesses because you need to have the exponential growth, like you rightly said. And if you're asset heavy, it might be difficult, or if you're selling physical products, it might be difficult to access VC funding. And traditional investors are more likely, that's traditional financing banks and companies, things like that, are more likely to come in, so long as they can see the margins and they know that they can get something back. And then you mentioned grants, which I didn't even think of asking you about. And so, in all these three types of funding, which would you say for young businesses or growing businesses, which would you say is most easy to approach, or most likely to give them some form of funding, so long as the entrepreneur themselves is investor ready?
Okay. So one of the things that Holistic Consult does is investor readiness. So I just want to chip that in now. This is not a paid promotion, by the way. So this helps you also streamline what sort of investors you should be looking at. So for example, if you're early stage, you're just starting out, I think that a lot of people underestimate the importance of friends and family. So that friends and family network, those are the first people who would believe in your business and want to support you. A lot of you, it's not something that you should negate. A lot of business owners have gotten their initial capital from friends and family, so it's nothing to look down on. It doesn't mean that your business is less prestigious. It doesn't mean that you're a less serious business person. The first investment check is usually from someone who believes in you and, quite frankly, is not afraid to make a loss. I would say that how I got into Messenger was by being the first investor in Messenger. So Messenger is my brother's idea. It's my brother's business basically, and he reached out to me saying, "Oh, hey, I want to start this company." And at the time, I didn't see myself being the CEO or being a major part of it, but I was ready to invest because it was from somebody I obviously knew, and I knew I knew and trusted to a certain degree. So that is the first, I think, leeway for any investor, or sorry, for any business owner. You definitely should be able to convince someone to invest in your business. That's one way. And the second way is, not everyone is going to give you free capital, but I've seen certain conversations where if you're able to show that, hey, my cost price is X, my selling price is Y, once I get this, I'm going to give you, the amount of money. So that's another way where you can easily have like revenue based financing. A lot of people who are contractors actually deploy that method. People building houses, or people even are trying to sell a product, a finished product, I say, oh, I get my raw materials from China. By the time I package it together, do the shipping and clearing, I'm going to give you X% of my profits or my margins. People make money that way. It's also pretty straightforward if you're able to show the numbers. A lot of people want to see the numbers, and you can definitely run the numbers on any sort of business and show to your potential investor. These days, people want to be able to see when do they recoup their investment, so that actually help. So these are two things I think that people starting out should look to do. Of course, one thing that I would advise a lot of people is, yes, sometimes you should be able to put your own money where your mouth is. If you're starting a business, aside from looking for capital, some of it should come from you, because that loss is going to be, it's something that you would feel, and it's harder it's yes, investor money is important, but sometimes just taking a bet on yourself is also, one, risky. It means you're going to put in a lot of time and effort into it. Some people would not invest until they see what has been done by the founder in the first instance. Like, you're calling people to invest in your business. Have you invested in that venture yourself?
Yes, amazing. That's valid, because a lot of founders come to us and from day one they're like, oh, I need 100 million naira for XYZ. And they haven't started it, they haven't done the work. So it's a bit of a conundrum, let me say, because you haven't invested the time, or you haven't put in the sweat equity, which is you using your time as money in place of investing in your business. That time is also an investment. You haven't done that, but you want an investor to come in, and it's a bit, we then have to explain, and this is how things are done. It's not done this way, but people don't want to understand. So I guess that's going to lead me to my next question, which is, how can founders demonstrate that this business has potential for growth and scalability to investors? Like, how can they give investors confidence to invest in them by demonstrating their potential for growth and scalability?
Okay, so one thing I would say now is, first of all, there's nothing new under the sun. Any idea that you have. I see some people are very, like to defensive about sharing their ideas, and I can bet you anything that somebody somewhere else is doing that same exact thing. So I think ideas are given to many people at the same time. So it's based on execution. So first, one way of showing that your business is viable is being able to show that if you have nothing on ground, is to show the growth trajectory of very similar businesses. And a tip I would say is to show them in different markets. So let's say you're about to start something here in Lagos, you can show the success of a similar venture in Cote d'Ivoire or Accra or even Kenya to say, oh, this has worked there. I would say that yes, there are lots of cultural differences in these cities, but just
Yeah,
being able to say, this is how these people have moved. I've seen that this is their trajectory. This is what I'm doing differently. This is going to be my secret sauce, because people are going to ask you what differentiates you from that. But being able to show the potential of your competitor or your inspiration in some cases also helps you prove the viability of a business. So there's a running joke for some Igbo traders. If you go somewhere and you don't see any Igbo man in that place, you know that it's not successful. So sometimes
oh my
people,
god.
no, I'm saying this to say that a lot of people say, oh, there's a gap in the market, but sometimes there's no market in the
You're
gap.
not getting the
So if
gap.
you see that something is so novel, it's never been done, you have to ask your questions. Like, there's a reason that this road is less traveled for a reason,
Yeah, and you will
and
find out.
you will find out. You will actually find out. So there's a lot of stubborn people, myself included, who will go down that road. But the thing is, when you're there, then you would know definitely why the road is less traveled. And I think that we all see ourselves as outliers. We feel like we're going to be very different. But I have to stress here that how you know that something is successful is because you're able to see the success replicated somewhere else. It's the
Yeah,
truth.
yeah,
Yes, we all want to bring out something new, but how you know something is successful is there's already a market for it. So just to mention that one fact. Another thing is knowing your numbers. So for me, there are certain aspects of my skill sets that might not translate to knowing the numbers, but these are skills that you can outsource or even have a complementary co-founder, for instance. Being able to demonstrate that your business is successful, you need to show the numbers. You need to show your unit economics. How does this work? I've mentioned buy for X, sell for Y. So you need to know your numbers. You need to know the ins and outs of your business. That's what is going to convince someone to say, oh, hey, this guy knows this business. So even if you've never done the business before, and so for example, you've worked in a fashion house, you know all it takes. You work there for a certain number of years, and you come out and you say, I want to start a fashion brand. Nobody's going to bat an eye because you put in the work in knowing this.
yeah,
So this is also another thing about people starting businesses. It's more comfortable to start with something that you do have a bit of a background or experience in. Someone is going to give you money. I'm trying to remember like a good example, but there are many fashion designers that have started as being, will I say, the head of a fashion house, and they move on to do their own thing. We've
Comfort.
Exactly. We've seen it several times. So like Tom Ford, I can't remember which exact fashion
Yeah,
house.
he was the creative director at Gucci, and then he went and started Tom Ford himself.
Exactly. So, for example, if you're Tom Ford and you're working at Gucci right now and you come out and you say, oh, hey, I'm going to start my own thing, an investor is going to be confident because you've learned the ins and outs of that business. So, you might not have zero capital, but your experience in that sector gives people enough comfort to say, oh, hey, this person has done such a great work at this company. I trust them to be able to run their own show. You've
Yeah,
had a lot of people. I think one of the things that we read about in Nigeria is they say, oh, the Jumia mafia. These people worked at Jumia before, but this is what they are doing now. So sometimes affiliation to success is also going to help you.
yeah,
I'm hoping that we can be very as real as possible on this call, so of how you can, prove to investors that you have what it takes. So no
yeah,
experience is wasted. You can use your background as leverage to get your investors. You can show the numbers, and of course, you can show what the market is saying about the business you're about to start.
of course. Yeah, I always say that. our followers or community, skin in the game is so important, because even with we've had a client that they already had experience in an industry, and then they wanted to start a separate business, apart from the business that they already had, where they already gained all the experience, and then realized there's another gap in the market that they were trying to fill. And then they now went and took that pitch to the investor, fresh new business idea based off the experience I already have, and they were able to secure like a lot of money for their business, and then went on to launch the business. And they're doing very well today because the experience like spoke for them, like you rightly said. So yeah, so aside the experience, in your opinion, you know the important financial metrics that what are the important financial decisions or financial clues that help investors make decisions on which metrics they should prioritize when looking at startups, or rather, which metrics should startups prioritize when pitching to investors?
Okay. So that's a it should be simple, but people always ask you, what's your revenue? What's your numbers? People
Yeah.
always that's the first thing, like how much are you making? Okay, what's or we were in the times when people say, oh, how many users do you have, how many interests, but people want to know first, like, yes, they want to know how many customers you have, or
Yeah.
not even users, more like customers, how many people are paying for your services. That's number one. So what will it take? For instance, you know that X number of people today 2024 are paying for your services. What will it take to serve 1,000? What will
Hmm.
it take to serve 10x of that number? What is the blocker between where you are now and serving 1,000 people? So that's one question. So I'm saying this because people say, "Oh, I don't have revenues yet, but the business has potential." They want to know what is the bottleneck or what are the bumps between now and your first 1,000, your first 10,000 customers. What will it take to get there? So first, how many customers you have, how many people are really interested in paying for your services, what are your revenues? Then, if you've been in business for a while, like I mentioned, if we're talking about VCs, people don't like to fund companies where the growth trajectory is flat. People want to see month on month growth.
Yes.
So those are some of the things you need to show, like how your revenue, what's your revenue growth like? What then another very important question that has started to come up now is people want to know what your monthly burn is. Meaning they want to know how much are you spending monthly. Okay, so you're making 10 million naira a month. Let's say you're spending eight. It's going to give your investors cause for concern. Or you're spending 9.5. So it now goes beyond just knowing your revenue to knowing your burn. So those are
Yeah.
two very important questions people are asking right now. What's your revenue? What's your burn rate like? Okay, then people ask about your unit economics. But just to make it as simple as possible for any sort of business here is how much are you making? How much are you spending? How much does the business actually generate as profit?
Hmm. Amazing. So at the end of the day, it comes down to numbers, and
Yeah.
it comes down to what your financial projections or financial reports are saying about your business. There's someone that says, or somewhere where I heard, and I've been saying it as well, where they say fundraising is all about storytelling and spreadsheets. So what are your spreadsheets saying about you? It's a very good point. So following that trail, in terms of building credibility with investors, so how do founders, or in your experience, have you been able to build credibility? Because I know that for a while, you and your brother were running the business, and didn't you weren't I didn't really pay attention, or I didn't notice that you guys were looking for funding initially. But I think when you guys hit like the 5 year mark or the 4 year mark, that was when you now started actively looking for funding. So how did you find that experience in terms of like how did you build your credibility very quickly, for you to be able to be successful in debt financing and VC funding as well?
Okay, so that's an interesting question. So, for us at Messenger, we didn't start the business thinking we were going to need VC funding. So, when I think we've been in business for 6 years, we haven't been, will I say, a startup for that long. If I, because we say the story a lot, and this is another thing that could be looked at as positive or negative. Because one, when you say you've been in business for long, people want to see exponential numbers. So for us, we started out as a traditional business. We did not pivot to becoming a startup till 2022. And that again, like I said, we were inspired. We saw that, oh, we've been doing this business traditionally, we were okay. I wasn't even part of the business at the time. If we're, we just like sell one, get two, just going by. And then I had my corporate jobs. We're not looking to be a startup. So by 2022, I think in October, I was like, you know what? I'm seeing that these people, these Gokada people, they just came into the country and boom, this is what they're doing. So I think that we can do more with what we're doing right now. I think that's how the conversation started, and we now started to try to get into the startup ecosystem and understand it. So if I'm being more factual, we've been in this startup game, I think, exactly 2 years. But it seems like such a long time because we've
It's
been in
like a
this.
long time. I know because you've done so much
Yeah.
within just a short while. So how were you like able to, build your rep, quote unquote, so fast?
Okay, so first of all, I feel like everything is leverage.
Yeah.
We talk about the length of how Messenger has been going on for a while as a way to build our own credibility. Like, oh, hey, we didn't just start this business from nowhere. We've been doing logistics for a while. So that's why we'll say, oh, we've been in business for so long. But in reality, being a startup, we've only been a startup for 2 years. So first of all, we leveraged on our past experience in our traditional business and brought it into the VC terrain. The second thing is building your credibility is a balance. It's talk and do. So one of the things, as much as people think it's very cringe to give this sort of talks or to be seen everywhere, I think you kind of have to overcome that a bit for your business. Yes, a lot of people believe in building faceless businesses, but I'm saying that if I'm really looking at our trajectory, we've only been in this space for 2 years. So that means that being forefront has been very helpful for SN and I, and has been helpful for the Messenger brand. So that's one of the things. I've been an ambassador from the business from the start. Like I'm talking about it, I'm talking about my experiences. Like we're very, very far right now from where we want to be. Like I'll say that we'll have, like, it's been a very interesting time for businesses in this year, but it's still important to communicate what we're doing, like to say to our investors, like, hey, this is what's going on. This is how we're navigating this new normal. This is how we're keeping the business afloat, and this is how we plan to grow. So a bit of balance between talking about your business and showing the working.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things to do to build credibility. Um, I have like an educational background in logistics and supply chain, so it's good to highlight that. Getting into accelerator programs is a really great hack to building that credibility for your business, because somebody else puts that stamp of approval for you, or somebody holds your hands and takes you into rooms that you might not necessarily be able to get into.
Of
I know
course.
people frown at that path, but everything has its benefits. So now I could, so for I would even say how this started, just so that it gives somebody insight. So for example, 2022, we decided that we wanted to get into the VC space and be a startup, and I was just by myself and a friend of mine, Tolu Samai. She had like an ice cream company, and she said, "Oh, Amanda, I think you should apply for Africa Business Heroes." I'm like, okay, no problem. And I just looked at the application and I did it. And before then, I spoke to other friends as well to say, "Oh, I'm looking to get into this. How do I get funding?" And he sends me a link to say apply for the Baobab Network. So I applied for the Baobab Network, got rejected. Um, applied for Africa's Business
Really?
Heroes. Yeah, the first time we applied, we got rejected. Applied for Africa's Business Heroes, we got accepted. We got into top 50. We actually went through another round, and it's quite
You got into
interesting.
top 50.
Yeah, top 50 Africa Business Heroes. This was 2022. And you know what I did? I was just lying down on the floor that day and I was feeling a bit helpless. And I was like, if you know what? So I just got into top 50 Africa Business Heroes. So I wrote back to Baobab Network. Oh, hi. Since the last time you spoke, this has happened to us. We've also recently been named this. And I'm like, okay, show us your numbers again. And we went through it again. And the second time, we got accepted. And this was so Africa Business Heroes, I think it was the end of July. So August, end of July, we got announced, or August. We got into Baobab Network, I would say maybe October. So immediately this happened, I already started putting together my application. So that's how that worked. And then from Baobab, there were introductions to other investors and funders. And yeah, just that was how it started. So everything, I'm just saying that to say everything is leverage. Whether
Yeah,
it's a rejection or a positive nod, you can use it to your advantage in getting
yeah.
noticed.
Amazing, amazing. I always say this to founders, because like you, I'm sure you know this. I work with a VC in the UK, and they say even if you spoke to us, 3 months ago or 6 months ago, we want to know what you're doing now. Just like keep in touch, because you never know. You might make an application to a VC, an investor, and they say no, but you go back and do the work, and then you come back and say, okay, since the last time I spoke to you, this is what I've done, which you did, which is that's an amazing highlight. Because I mean, I shared this last week on my, I think, my Instagram story. Because you get a no doesn't outrightly mean no. It means no, go and do the work and then come back and show me what you've done, and then show that you've grown since the last time you spoke to them. And that would make a world of difference, because it just shows the kind of founder that you are. And most of the time, that's the kind of founder that they want to invest in, because at the end of the day, investors are not that they might be investing in the business and looking at the numbers, but they are really investing in the person that leads the business, which is the founder. So you have to keep growing, essentially. Now, talking about credibility and all these other things, and you getting into accelerators. Side note: a lot of people look down on incubators and accelerators, and I think it's because of these VC announcements. I think those VC announcements, they do more harm than good, and I think people need to have a more balanced view, because not a lot of people talk about the no's. We've had a founder before that said that they had to speak to 300 investors before they could raise like $1 million, which is the reality of fundraising for a tech startup. But most people don't know that. Most people think that, oh, they just talk to one or two VCs and bam, you've raised $2 million. That is not the reality, and we all know that, but nobody talks about it. And a lot of people, that makes them look down on accelerators. But I always say accelerators play such a major part, because they can put you 1 year ahead, by just giving you their resources. They might not even be giving you funding. Some accelerators give funding, some don't. But some accelerators, the network that they have, the people they will introduce you to, the doors that you get into, the groups that you don't have access to normally, that you be able to walk into, would be a world of difference for your business, which I think you've done that incredibly. So that being said, in terms of credibility and all, we would my next question was going to be, what role do testimonials, case studies, past achievements play in convincing investors? But you've already demonstrated how it convinces investors, because as much as people don't like to, mention that, clout is such a major thing when you're fundraising. You must have clout. Like, except you are building the next chat GPT. Even if you are building the next chat GPT, the guy that built chat GPT, the I can't remember his name, I think Sam, right? That guy had so much clout already, because he was already like part of YC already, and he already has so much clout. So except you're building a spaceship, um clout, when I say clout, I mean PR, I mean people knowing you, I mean you having all these accolades, all these awards, all these, okay, top 50 business heroes in Africa, which is a massive deal, because there's at least 10 million entrepreneurs in Africa. I'm guesstimating here, but still, do you understand what I'm saying? So it's a big deal. So clout plays a major role in convincing investors. Yeah, you
I
want
think
to
I
expatiate
when
on
you
that?
word cloud, that people might see it as a bad thing. So I think that building,
Storytelling.
sorry,
Storytelling.
storytelling.
Yeah.
Yes. So cloud might sound like a bad word, but storytelling is important. And then building that, will I say, persona for your business. It doesn't even have to be you, but getting those, like you said, testimonials, case studies, getting the word out there, or even just opening your business up for certain things like that, does play a major role. And to be quite fair, I would understand people looking down on accelerator programs and incubators, but the alternative is that not all of us are born with networks where we could raise without going on accelerator programs. So I think it's a leveler. So a lot of people launch their businesses and they're able to secure like top investors without having to go through an accelerator program. If that's you, by all means, please do that.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's not you, I don't think that it's an opportunity for people to stick their noses up at something. So it's more like I said, whatever leverage you have, you use it. So if, for instance, I could just walk up to any investor and say, "Oh, I need $1 million for my business. and I may not require any sort of form of hand holding, then I'm sure anybody would do that. But a lot of people don't have that access. So you hear a lot of things. And one of the things that I think is really important is you should try to join a lot of founder groups or founder forums, because one thing that helps is also getting information. Information is something that's quite scarce. So yes, we could talk about accelerators, incubators. If you're afraid of wasting your time, if you're in a group with other founders, they're able to point you in the right direction, like tell you what is what, for example, where you should go. Oh, don't bother about this. Nah, this program wasn't great. Okay, I got this from this. At the end of the day, you have to make your own decisions. But being in those environments, so it's not always um, higher up. You could do like peer to peer networking. Like there's some opportunities I'll see. I'm like, oh, this would be great for Tolani. And I've had people share things with me that have also been great opportunities. So that's one of the ways. It's not always going to be accelerators and incubators, but people would make introductions. People would introduce you to a business or a partner that can, blow things up for you. Some people's startup or businesses are just serving one major customer.
Mm.
So that customer could be your breakthrough. Like it could be like so pivotal to the business that you're like, oh, these people, they handle XXX for this large corporation, and then once you now want to branch out to serve others, this customer could be, the opportunity that would skyrocket the business. So I feel like there are many avenues that you can grow your business, and everything, like I said, should be leveraged. What do you have? What do you have access to?
Amazing. So, in your opinion, like with everything you've said, what would you say are some of the best practices for initiating and maintaining like relationships with potential investors?
So one thing, one thing I would say is that one thing that I would say has kind of worked out for me. I have gotten a lot of no's, and I think failure is very much a part of this journey. It keeps you humble.
Hmm.
A lot of things that I've said or like prior to being in the fire myself, that now I see the difference.
Oh, I think we lost connection with Amanda. You're back. I can't hear you. No. Say hi. Mhm. No. Let me try to take you off and then bring you back. How about now? Can you speak? I think you need to leave the call and rejoin or just refresh. Right. So we've been speaking with Amanda. She's been sharing her insights on her journey from her just being an investor into Messenger, which was a business that her brother started, which was like a last mile logistics company based in Abuja, Nigeria. And then from then, her looking at the bigger things that could be done with Messenger, because I do remember, this part of her journey, because Amanda is a close friend of mine. I remember when they transitioned into being a traditional business and became a startup, and then a startup that has raised so much investing through several means, from VCs, from traditional investors, and from accelerators as well. So we were talking about the best practices for maintaining and initiating and maintaining relationships with potential investor. Amanda.
Yes, I was mentioning how failure is a huge part of my journey and it has kept me humble. So maintaining relationships is really important. So I've been very fortunate to meet an investor actually, and one of the ways that I would say, just to avoid the complexities of saying, oh, it's not my personality, I would say sending out regular communication and updates. So
Yes.
I don't want to give an example that you might think, oh yeah, it's based on your personality. So no, send a document at least every month or every quarter to tell people how the business is going. Even if it's a grant, even if it was from friends or family, just maintaining that communication regarding the business. I feel like it shows a level of respect that you have for the person, and then it shows your openness and transparency about how the business is going. So
Hmm.
that I think that would be one of the would I say the key things I would like to say to anyone. Just being able to do that is a game changer. So I've noticed that there are months and months I keep sending updates, I never get a response. But there's a particular investor, he actually reads everything, because sometimes you ask a random question about it. It might not even be on the mail thread. He might just send me a WhatsApp message about it and say, oh, okay, this thing, how is it going? Just communication is the most important thing, and respect. Um, you taking always be open to hearing people's stories. I think at the beginning it's very easy to say all the things that they are saying. Yeah, like people are saying the same thing over and over, but sometimes people are really sharing from their experiences and ways that could make things easier or better for you. So sometimes yes, you can discount certain information, but I think you should always respect the time of whoever has given that advice or information. You take everything with a pinch of salt, but appreciate the time and effort that has gone into giving you that space or access. So respect, communication, definitely one of the things. And if someone has helped you up, like I see people look down on certain programs. If you've gotten some sort of benefit from any program at any point in time, it's really important to be able to acknowledge that as part of your journey.
Hmm.
Yeah, so a lot of times I do a number of these talks, or I share a lot of things that seem like talking a lot or sharing, but it's really in appreciation of what that opportunity has contributed to where I am right now, or even to my journey. So that's what it is for me. Being able to reach back even when you feel like you can't get anything from the experience again. I think it's important.
Of course. It's amazing. It's just that's a lot of growth, I would say. It takes a bigger person to be able to do all those kind of things, because sometimes, when well, most founders, it gets to their heads and you feel like, you are all knowing and all being and all of that. And then sometimes you forget that, a lot of people contributed to make this journey easier for you. So not letting go of that, or not losing sight of that, would always keep you, successful through your journey. That being said, I like what you shared about the investor that reads all the updates that you shared, even though they don't respond immediately, always bring it up and always offering to help. Um, I want to ask about strategic alignment with investors. um how do you ensure as a startup that you find investors that share your vision, or that understand your vision? You don't have to necessarily share your vision, but understand where you're going to. How do you find those investors? Because sometimes a lot of founders make the mistake where, they get with an investor, or they find an investor and investor is ready to invest, but investor is just, in fact, most times investors just looking at the money that they can make. And for most people, and that's fine. That's what investing is at the end of the day. You're trying to make additional income. Or that's, what you're making. That's your bread and butter. That's how you're making your living. Um, how do you find investors that share your vision, that are willing to let you grow as a company, or let you run your business how you deem fit, and not sort of overbearing? Because I've heard a lot of, founder horror stories where investors are, tackling them behind closed doors, or trying to bring them down because they invested in this other company and they want to take the resources from this company to grow the other company. It's a mess. I'm sure you've heard those stories as well. But how do you find the right investors that are, not necessarily angel investors, but investors that are angels, that are literally just there to help you? How do you find those kind of people?
So I think the common denominator in any relationship is you. So not all money is good money.
Hmm.
Um, so like I've mentioned, being able to talk to other founders and to just hear their experiences. So sometimes, like if people warn you about a certain, like, oh, don't bother with this. Yes, you're special, but you're not that special. If there have been consistent warnings about a particular, investor, I think you should listen, or maybe give it some sort of thoughts. That's number one. And then you sign agreements with people. So you look through the agreements. So I know that yes, we really need the capital for the funding, but if you are not comfortable with the terms, then don't take them. But if you take the, what I call it, if you take the money or you agree to the terms, then it's up to you to fulfill those obligations that you signed up to. It's almost like musicians now signing a contract and you're upset with your label. You need to read the contract, and if it's something that you honestly cannot do, then you walk away from it.
Hmm.
So that's, I think that's the first step to avoiding those sort of relationships. Just looking at the fine lines and saying, okay, I can do this or I can't do this. Don't overpromise and then when you can't deliver, make the investor out to be the bad guy. If you
Hmm.
sign up for monthly meetings with your investors, even though they can get cumbersome, you signed up for that. So you have to agree to things that you can actually deliver on, and if you can't, please don't take the money. And
Yes.
then also those the conversations at the beginning of the investment. So there are certain ways that a conversation can go that is almost like a forewarning to how the relationship is going to be. If you're not comfortable at any point in time, I think it's okay to walk away from certain deals. um, so I've had a situation like that. It wasn't a bad investor, but my co-founder and I did not agree on the terms. And even though and we had to return money,
Hmm.
so
Wow.
yeah, we did. It was very painful to do that. I was so upset. But at the end of the day, you need to you need to be on the same page with the people that you're doing business with. If you really cannot deliver on something, or if what you've asked for you don't align with it, please don't take the money and make the investor out to be a bad person.
Hmm. Amazing. So you had to set expectations with yourself, with your company, with your
Yeah,
co-founder, your internal stakeholders, and then say that these are standards or these are the agreeables and non-agreeables, and then don't go beyond that. Don't overstretch yourself. That's so valid advice.
yeah.
Um, yeah. So I want to make it a bit more relaxed now. I don't want to ask all the tense, difficult questions. So, what would you say is a really fun story in your fundraising journey that that something really fun that happened? Because it just sounds all doom and gloom, when everyone's talking about their fundraising. I see some founders that are fundraising, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, Jesus, like maybe just you look like you look battered. Like it's a lot. And I don't think a lot of people that haven't been through that journey know what it is. It takes so much of you, like it's very draining. So let's leave the hard things now. So what's a fun thing that has happened or something, just something funny, please?
Well, to be honest, it's not all doom and gloom. I think life just has seasons and ups and downs. I can't really think of okay, well, I can say when I was pleasantly wrong. So of course, at some point when you're talking to a lot of investors, you're really tired and you just don't want to take any calls. So we had a particular investor that I wasn't sure was going to come through. I was at the point where I was exhausted personally. And I'm like, I don't think we're going to get anything out of this. Oh, I have a headache. Oh, I'm not sure I can make this. And my brother, like, this is another reason why people that do it alone, like, hurts to you. But it's always great to have a co-founder because you balance each other out. And my brother was like, don't worry, you know what? I'll take this call. It'll be fine. And then he took the call. I was there. I was alive, but I was just like not able to
All
join
alive.
the call. I was alive. So he came back and he's like, look at you. Like he agreed to give. Like it was the quickest agreement or call that we got, and it was one where I did not have a lot of faith in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So sometimes yes, it's difficult, it's doom and gloom, but you actually just have to keep putting yourself out there. Somebody's going to what's the word? Somebody's going to connect with your business and want to invest, but you just never know because you're not the all seeing three-eyed raven. So sometimes you just really have to give everybody like a good impression of yourself, like even when you're exhausted. So just still show up. That's what I would say, show up.
I
And in
mean,
cases where you can't, please have a co-founder that can show up on your behalf. Yeah.
honestly, I do that sometimes as well. Even with like clients, I'll tell my business development like, this client is not going to come in. Just let it go. I'm like, I'm not interested. I don't want to hear about it anymore. And they'll be like, Ma, guess what? And I'm like, guess what was? They're like, oh, the client has paid. I'm like, oh my God. So I guess yeah, sometimes it does happen that way. It does happen that way. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we've come to the end of the thing. Is there any insight you want to share with us before we wrap up, or as we're wrapping up?
Yeah, like before you wrap up, I just want to say that I know you're building this fantastic business and you're going to be successful, but you are not your business, and
Hmm.
you're a separate entity from your business. So whether you're doing great right now or you're struggling, I just want to know that you to know that you are still you, you are still great, you're still awesome, you're still the same person that's birthed this fantastic idea. So whether it's a success right now or not, it doesn't diminish who you are as a person. You know, you are who you are. God loves you. Just to say, just to add, we all want to be successful, but you are beyond your business. You are still valuable, whether your business is valuable or not, so whether you raise money or not. I just needed to end
Amazing.
that way.
I mean, Amanda, you've always been wise since I've known you since you were 17 years old. So, well, see, I think you were 16 when I met you.
Around that age, 16,
Yes,
yeah.
I've known you for half my life. That's insane.
I
More than,
know.
oh my God. You've always been wise. So, yeah, it's not shocking that you said that just now. But yeah, thank you for that because a lot of founders get really down when they don't raise. It's a very
Yeah.
difficult thing to do. Even when there was excess money and money was flowing in with 2021,
We still
2022.
didn't flow to everybody. Oh.
Because
Your journey,
not
your
everybody
journey.
got funding. Like that's just how it flows. For some businesses, you might find out that there are a lot of businesses that bootstrap that didn't raise any money at all.
Yeah.
And they're doing so well. And you're like, oh, I'm sure they raised 2 million. I'm like, they didn't raise. Their customers were their investors. A lot of people just bought into their business and they didn't need anyone.
Yeah.
And everybody's praying to build that kind of $1 million business or $1 billion business. I think it's Tokwe Tono. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Calendly, I think he's only raised once, and it was like seed or pre-seed or something very. It was not a lot of money, but he's running $1 billion company, and he's only raised once. So, like, because you've not raised, it's not the end of the world. Everybody's story is different.
Yeah. Like we can
Everybody's
even bring it closer to home. So there's Hughes and Tech. Hughes and Tech is not raising. She's doing quite fantastic. There are lots of businesses that get rejected. We at Messenger haven't raised that much money. So at the end of the day, it does not invalidate what your business is. Sometimes it might just be a redirection for you to say, okay, there has to be other ways that we power this business. So yeah, I think that's really it. Just to encourage anyone out there.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for being here. Yes, Amanda Etuk, co-founder, Messenger NG, with all our accolades and accomplishments. I am so proud of you. Oh my God, you have no idea. You're actually doing the thing. You know when everybody says, "When I grow up, I'm going to be this," and Amanda's actually doing it. like, so yeah, well done on everything
Thank
that you've done.
you.
And your journey is just amazing to watch. How you're growing and being more and more successful with your business every year. So you know where to find the Messenger NG on all their platforms. Right now, there's providing financial solutions for people that want to get into logistics businesses, and they're not just providing financial solutions, they're actually changing lives, and they're making impact in the lives of people that just want to be able to feed their family with the works of their hand in a very complicated company like that's a company. It is a complicated company, Nigeria. A very complicated country. And honestly, whether or not the government is good or bad, entrepreneurs like Amanda are making it work and making a difference in the lives of people in Nigeria. So that's amazing. Amanda, thank you so much for your work. Well done to you and SCN. We wish you all the very best, Alice. We're rooting for you always.
Yes, I
Whenever
know.
we plug you, we do. So yeah, looking forward to amazing things. As you're doing amazing. I know you do more.
I think the next thing, my next announcement, I'll run it through Halisi Consult so they can do their announcements for us.
Okay,
That
we're
would be good.
ready.
So no doom and gloom. The next thing we should hear some good news.
Yay! Yay! We're looking forward to that. Thank you so much, Amanda, for your
So,
time. All right, I'll buzz you now on WhatsApp.
bye.
Bye. All right, it was so fun having Amanda. We've had her before to talk about business growth strategies because she was very instrumental into the business development part of Messenger for them to get like key clients. Because one thing about Messenger that I found really interesting is a lot of people were doing last mile delivery, but Messenger had like a very big client like Jumia, and they were handling a massive account in Abuja, which was amazing at the time. So not just great, she's not just great at fundraising, she's also great at business development, which is honestly amazing, amazing founder, amazing work. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We're gonna have more and more business leaders come and share their experience with us at Halisi Consults. Um, and yeah, you already know who we are. Halisi Consult is a business development consulting company. We started in Nigeria and we're global now. We're serving clients all over the world in Nigeria, in Kenya, in India, in the UK, in the US, wherever you are. We're happy to come in and work with you on getting investor ready for your company. And just shoot us an email. Go to our website, www.halisiconsults.com, schedule a free consultation with us, and we'll walk you through the process of getting investor ready, getting your business plans that you might need for applications to grants or to accelerators, things like that, getting your pitch decks and financial projections ready, or getting all the documents in your data room ready. We also do that as well. So you can, I'm sure, I think there's a link in the caption here on YouTube or wherever channel you're watching this on. But you can go to our website or go to our social media. We're very active on Instagram. We're there 24/7 at Halisi Consults. You can find us on all these platforms and they just shoot us a message, and we're happy to take any inquiry that you have regarding fundraising, investor readiness, business plans, financials, and pitch decks, and getting all your data room documents in place for your investor due diligence as your fundraising process. Mr. Samuel is asking, how do you get VC and angel investors in Nigeria? How about grants? Are there organizations that give out grants to small businesses in Nigeria? If you watch this video on YouTube from the beginning, Amanda already mentioned, some ways that can be done. In terms of getting VC and angel investors in Nigeria, they are possible. We at Halisi make recommendations to investors, VC investors and angel investors, if we feel that the startup is a fit for what they are looking for. So one tip that I can give before I round up the call is that if you're looking for VC and angel investors in Nigeria or grants in Nigeria, you have to understand what kind of companies that they invest in or that they give grants to, first of all, and make sure that your company aligns with that. Just find the people that are looking for you and then start that journey. Make sure you have your documents in place, your business plans, your financials, your pitch deck, or your grants application documents. And yeah, if you want us to help you with that, you can shoot us an email or you can click the link in our bio on any of the platforms that we are. We're on YouTube, or on LinkedIn, or on Instagram, or on Twitter. Find us, send us a message. We're happy to work with you. So yeah, you can definitely find investors for your business, and then just so long as it applies. And if you don't find investors, you can still grow your business and still be a success with or without investors. It's not compulsory to find investors. It's not a do or die affair. So I hope that answered your question, Samuel. Um, Boniface says, great. Thank you so much for joining. And thank you guys for making the time on a Saturday that you should be resting with your family. But yeah, this video is up on our YouTube and we'll share clips of it on all of our social media as well. And yeah, you can just use this to get more insights into how to make your fundraising journey a smoother one. Till then, thank you. Goodbye. Have a great weekend ahead. Until next time, my name is Tolani Thomas-Allinson, Principal Consultant at Halisi Consult. We're here to help you launch, grow, and thrive in your business. So if you do need us to work with you, just send us a message.